Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Back to Spotlight podcast. I am Gabby, one of the entertainment students who is also a host on this show. And today I am joined with Dr. Thomas Harrison, who I call Dr. H. And we brought him on this episode, and we're very happy he's here because we wanted to get basically every aspect of entertainment we could get. As you'll see in other episodes, we have law, we have themed entertainment, we have students, and Dr. H basically has a good variety of music as well as he's also just, an instructor. He's a musician, instructor, and he went to college. So a lot of things happen in here. And we don't really get a lot of music stuff going on in Rosen. So we really thought it'd be a great opportunity to bring someone in who has more knowledge. So, Dr. H, want to give a little rundown of your very, very vast experience?
Sure. I'll try to keep it as brief as I can because I will absolutely ramble on about myself.
That's
I'm from
okay. We
Kailua.
were here for it.
Okay, I'm from Kailua, Hawaii, the 50th state in the middle of the Pacific. And when I was growing up, I started playing guitar and bass as later instruments because I played the brass before. So played trumpet. I was first year tuba, first year euphonium, and all that stuff. And then I realized I couldn't play heavy metal, which is my preferred genre,
Mm-hmm.
the tuba easily, so I picked up the guitar. And uh, I I graduated from high school really early. I started college when I was 16 at University of Hawaii because my parents wouldn't let their punk son move to the mainland right away. And then I transferred to University of Denver. And when I was at Denver, I joined a band with some guys I knew in Hawaii
Mm-hmm.
that we played together when I was in the ninth grade and they were in the eighth grade. I'm a little older than they are. And we reformed the band that we had in Hawaii, except for one person, the singer.
Mm-hmm.
And within 1 year, we met a major label record producer named Jeff Workman, who had 26 platinum records. And we were
Wow.
being signed by Polygram Records in New York City. So I was the oldest member of the band. I was 17. So
Oh,
Polygram flew
wow.
me, yeah, Polygram flew me from Denver to Newark, New Jersey, and a guy named Louis Philippe, who is the A&R guy at Polygram Records, picked me up in the airport. And I walked through Hell's Kitchen for the first time, walking to his apartment. And I was trying to give money away to bums, and he said I shouldn't do that, so I stopped. And I went to a record company, and I
Mm-hmm.
saw Bon Jovi's 10 platinum records, which was pretty cool outside Derek Schulman's office. And they gave me a bunch of free stuff from bands that had not released albums yet, like LA Guns and Def Leppard and such. And it looked like we were going to sign with Polygram Records. So, and I was just actually turning 18. Actually, now I think about it when I got to
Mm-hmm.
art. So we went back, and turned out that they were doing the music video for "Pour Some Sugar on Me" by Def Leppard, which is a Polygram art. They were doing it in Denver, and they wanted to kill two birds with one stone. So they sent a lady named Len Lubash out to check out the band in rehearsal. And then I went to go see Def Leppard with Tesla opening up. Strangely enough, I became friends with Tesla years later,
Wow.
and everything looked really great. And then
Mm-hmm.
all of a sudden, I got a phone call from Louis explaining that he was leaving New York. He was going back home to Portland, Maine, and that meant that my my trick with Polygram was over.
Oh,
But
no.
yeah. So he signed us to his new label called Reindeer Records, which at the time was supposed to be an indie label. Now it's changed their focus. If it's even still together, they handle like teen bands or something. I guess he didn't have enough grief from Jinx. But they flew a producer from Maine to Denver to do pre-production, and since we were already seasoned with a multi-platinum producer who did Journey and Motley Crue and Dokken and the
Oh my
Car
goodness.
and Queen, we looked at this guy like he was a bozo because he was. But we tolerated him for about a week, and then we flew to Portland, Maine, and we recorded in Lewiston, Maine, recorded the record. And after we got back from Denver, they were mixing the record, and then we got into a little contractual dispute. So Reindeer decided to shelve the record, and we had taken promo pictures for the record and everything on these cool cliffs in Portland and all this stuff. And then all of a sudden, it was over. And the reason why the um, the label and I or us weren't happening is because there was some clause in the contract about pre-sales that our manager who was also the guitarist's mom, I was playing bass for the band, didn't catch, the attorney didn't catch it. So we were all ticked off at the mom. So the band broke up. And I went back to college, and I started going, University of Denver. I got a full tuition scholarship to study with Ricardo Isnaola, who's in the Classical Guitar Hall of Fame. I was a classical guitar major initially. I was classmates with Chris Broderick from Megadeth, and we were buddies. He turned me on the Dream Theater in my dorm room. I mean, we were just buddies before he became a rock star. And most people thought I was going to become a rock star and he was going to become a professor, and it turned out the other way around.
Oh my gosh.
But when I was at Denver, that producer, Jeff Workman, his wife Lori was a manager of the most popular band in Colorado called Dogs of Pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
And their guitar player was extremely well known, very, very good. He was a finalist for the Ozzy job in 1987 and for the Ronnie James Dio job in 1988. So he was really, really good, but he was really a jerk. And I want to say that in vulgar ways, but I won't. Him. He's not pleasant. So they fired him, and they had 70 people audition, and I came under a recommendation of Workman. So I was the second one to audition. It took about a month and a half, but I got the job. And I went from being a college student in a dorm to playing in front of 1,000 people a night. Playing,
Oh my gosh.
yeah. And so we had a management company, and Lori Workman was our manager, and we had business meetings, and that's when I started to learn a lot about the music business, because in G, I didn't know jack. So I was like, I just did what I was told. But in the Dogs, I started to learn about all these things about merchandise and marketing and all these things I just didn't know anything about. Well, Dogs did really well in Denver, and when I was about to graduate from the University of Denver, we couldn't get arrested in Denver, even though we were drawing huge crowds. So we even had the person who got Guns N' Roses signed fly out to see us open up for an Atlantic Records band called Saigon Kick, and she couldn't do anything for us. So we were like, forget it. Tommy's graduating. I was the only one in college, and we're going to move to LA, and we did. Within about 6 months, including time with me paying rent to sleep on somebody's couch for 2 years, and I'm serious. I actually slept.
I believe you.
I slept in one couch. So my girlfriend at the time, who was also in the music industry, much older than I was, she was 7 years older than I was.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
She worked at a concert promoter in Denver called Fay Concert, which is really popular. She worked for Barry Fay.
Okay.
And her name was Tommy. So you can imagine Tom He and Tom She. Oh my God, it was nuts.
That's
So
funny.
she moved to LA, and I got to stay with her and her roommate from college, who was Carol Burnett's daughter. Carol Burnett was a big comedian actress in the 70s, like about as popular as Jerry Seinfeld. Okay. So look up Carol. Your parents, I'm sure, know who Carol Burnett is. So
I'm sure they do. I've heard the name at least.
Yeah. And so I became friends with Carol Burnett's kids, Jody Hamilton and Carrie Hamilton, especially. Unfortunately, she's no longer with us. She died of cancer. But I slept on the couch and paid $150 a month for 2 years to do it. Me and the girlfriend broke up. So when she went on the road with Prince, I was told when she came back from the tour that I had to beat it. So I went to a different couch for the remainder of my 2 years until I started as a student at Cal State Northridge. While I was in LA, there's a period where I didn't go to college because I wanted to develop California residency. I was supposed to go to USC, and my financial aid fell through a week before I was supposed to move in my dorm, which sucked.
No
Job, maxed out credit cards, no car, no place to live. That's when I started couch surfing. I was supposed to move into a dorm. Yeah, that sucked. So, while the Dogs were playing the Hollywood circuit, I was approached by a band that had a development deal with Capitol Records, and they had just finished a development deal with A&M, and they asked me to join a band. Initially, I told them no, and the development deal ended, and then a few months later, they asked me back into the band, and I said yes. The band was called Aristocratic Trash. and they were the house band at the Coconut Teaser, which was on the Sunset Strip. Um, at the time, I was a contemporary of the band Korn. They were playing the Teaser all the time, even though I used to make fun of their name. I would never go see them. Then they became my favorite band after they got a record deal. Oops. So I was in the Aristocratic Trash. We were being produced by a guy from an 80s band called White Lion, the founding drummer of Anthrax, Greg D'Angelo. And one day when I was going to Northridge, I said to him, "Hey, if you ever need any help around here, let me know because I want to grow to be a producer someday." And I started as a second engineer the next day. So what I would do is I would work at the studio when I wasn't in school, which meant most of the time, like if the days I wasn't in school, I got to work at 10, sessions started at noon, and I finished usually between 10 and midnight, depending on the session. So if I wasn't in school, I was in the studio and with a new girlfriend who worked for MTV. Now is my wife of nearly 30 years. So, and she was living in London at the time. So it was, she was fun. Or she was doing that stuff.
A lot of work.
Yeah. And I became a staff engineer at the studio. So while I was at the studio, I got to work with some really great producers like Michael Wagner, who did Janet Jackson and Ozzy, and two of my favorite records from my teen years, Except Balls to the Wall, and Docking Under Lock and Key, and Skid Row. So working with him was great. I got to work with Ted Nugent's drummer, and Shulker's bass player, keyboardist from Guns N' Roses, Dizzy. Got to work with these really great people. But I wasn't in the band. I left my band and just engineered for a while. And then I finished my teaching credential at Cal State Northridge, which I call CSUN. So I'll just say CSUN moving forward. And the money was better as a choir teacher than it was as a recording engineer because people as engineers in LA, they get paid crap. I mean, it's really bad. And I was getting paid bad on days that I was engineering. If I had to be a second engineer, I got paid worse. I mean, it was terrible, below living wage. But you do it because you want to do it and you're hoping you're going to get a record. And I only worked on really one cool record that was commercially released. A lot of what I did was stuff that were demos. Even though the people were famous, they were demos for something else. But I worked on the Penny Dreadfuls record with them as a second engineer. And I forgot who the producer was, but he ended up becoming really famous like after I worked with him. I forgot who it was, but Terry Herring or Herring, something Herring. And I started teaching high school choir because the money was better and there was medical benefits, and I had a new wife and you take her to the doctor and me to the doctor and be like a responsible adult. So I did that for 3 years. I got a master's degree at Cal State LA in arranging. I studied songwriting with Deborah Holland, who was Sting's backing vocalist, which was really cool. And at the age of 28, I became a professor at Elizabeth City State University in North Carolina. It's a historically Black college. I knew nothing about gospel, and I learned a lot about gospel in that first year. One of my former students from that first year, who graduated that year, is the director of the recording program at Full Sail now.
Oh, wow.
Which is wild. Like, he was my student like 26 years ago, and it's really crazy. I'm old, man. I am old.
Small world.
Yeah. So and then when I was at ECSU, my boss took me out to lunch my first year. Took me to Hardee's. Thanks, Paulus. And he explained to me that if I didn't get a doctorate, I was never going to get a promotion. So I did a PhD at Salford University in UK. I could teach during the year, and I agreed to go over there for what they call tutorials 3 times a year. There were no classes at PhDs abroad. That's a U.S. only phenomenon, or mostly U.S. phenomenon. So like when I asked them about the classes, they're like, PhD is not taught; it is research. I'm like, oh. Okay. So I did a PhD on Van Halen, and it wasn't going to virtually be on Van Halen. It was going to be on record production. But as I learned, was that PhDs are very specific, and that a history of record production, which is what I wanted to do, was too broad. So we narrowed it down to what was my favorite guitar tone, like in the meetings I had over in the UK. And then I did Van Halen. Throughout all of this, I've been affiliated with musical instrument companies. I was endorsed by Fender my senior year of college, which was pretty sick. And the guy who made my guitar, Larry Brooks, did Eric Clapton's and Yngwie Malmsteen's. And I went to the custom shop in Corona, California to get it. They actually built my second guitar right in front of me, and man, those guys have got some nerve for charging $2,500 for a custom shop guitar because they put my guitar together in no more than 7 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, the wiring was already together, but it was like, go pick out a body, go pick out a neck, and it was like, and they're like, go next door and played it, and then when I played it, it was great. And then they brought me another guitar with a metal body, and they said, "Hey, we want you to try this out." It was a Strat with a metal body, so they let me loose with the guitar for about 10 minutes, and they came in and said, "What do you think about it?" I was like, "Body's kind of cold, metal and all that." And they said, "Yeah, it's the first Harley Davidson Stratocaster. You're playing the very first one."
Oh
So it
wow.
didn't have etching on or anything like that. About 6 months later, I went to Guitar Center in Hollywood and saw one of them. I don't know if it was the one I actually played, but it was like 10 grand. It's like,
Oh my
man, you're all
goodness.
crazy. So, but some ding dong collects Harley Davidsons. It's got a lot of money, probably. Some like attorney or doctor. Not offense to doctors or attorneys, they just have more money than me, and that's what they do. I mean, I have a friend who's a dermatologist, and as soon as he started getting paid like real money, he went and bought like a $6,000 guitar just because he thinks,
Just to have it.
yeah. So that was really cool. I'm currently endorsed by Fender again. I had a Yamaha endorsement for a while.
Oh
Fender,
wow.
Marshall, D'Addario, Celestion speakers, uh, Seymour Duncan pickups, Hipshot accessories, uh, um, X Gear effects pedals, but don't show those up. No, oh, there's X Gear. They're great. Um, no, I know the guy in charge of X Gear, so we're pretty tight, so it's all good.
Oh good.
Um, so it's been great. So I've been a producer and engineer since working at the studio. I've had a chance to make some really cool records, most independently released. I've had a chance to play on some really cool things. I did session work in LA, and I um, I also got into concert hall composing in graduate school much later in the game than most people. Most people start composing when they're like 17. I didn't get into it until I was about
Hmm.
27. And the style that I write is not exactly easy listening. My wife makes fun of it. She goes, I'm like, thanks, loving wife. So she hates,
Supportive.
yeah, she hates my music. So
Oh
um,
no.
whatever. She's a great mother. So
Aw, that's all that
it's all
matters.
it's also important. Great mother and great wife. She just hates my music. Oh, well. Um, so yeah, I guess there's a very long-winded, imagine that, history of me. Now I
And you didn't even
do,
get to UCF.
huh?
And you didn't even mention UCF yet.
Oh yeah. Sorry, I'm gonna get my power supply because I realized my battery's about to die.
No, you're
So,
okay. I'm plugged in right now, so.
one of the things about my academic career, which is interesting, is that when you take your MTV, VH1, BBC makeup artist's wife out of Hollywood, California, she's not amused, and she moved there from London, and I don't mean Connecticut. So, she did not want to move from LA at all, and I wanted to
Hmm.
be a professor really bad. So she agreed to go, but after 5 years of living in Virginia Beach, she was over it. So we moved to Orlando with the intention of her working in the makeup industry here, just like she did in LA. What we did not expect was that they didn't make a lot of music videos or movies here, and the theme parks require a cosmetology license to work there as a makeup artist, which is what you would find if you're going to Dillard's or something to get makeup. So she's not doing that. I mean, she went to drama school and she like
Yeah,
with people faces off like with prosthetics and stuff. So
that's
it's kind of,
cool.
yeah. It's Halloween can be really cool for me. So, I mean, once in LA, she put a bullet coming through my head and my face exploding out the side. It was wicked. And I went to high
That's
school
really cool.
that way too. Um, yeah, people are like, Mr. Harrison, you're so gross. I'm like, anyway. Um, so I was commuting for 2 years between Orlando and Norfolk, Virginia, on a plane every week. And when I did what I did was I wrote every university in the area, and it's very uncommon to cold call for a professor job. Usually, you get something from in the Chronicle of Higher Education or
Mm-hmm.
College Music Society, and then you are invited to apply. But you don't just say, "Hey, here I am, give me a job," because that doesn't it's not the way it works in academia. But I wrote everyone a letter saying, "I know this is unusual, but I'm commuting from Orlando. I'm tenure track at ECSU, and I'm just looking for anything full time." And a guy in charge of music at the time, UCF, Dr. Coons, wrote me back and he said, "Hey, I'm going to keep your resume on file." 2 years after commuting, um, the guy in charge of music tech at UCF died. First day of spring. Like,
Oh my
died.
gosh.
First day of spring. So they limped through that semester with graduate students, and then they got in touch with me. I'd had a job offer to go back to LA to teach at Cal Poly Pomona, but we were living in Orlando already. I had a new baby. That baby's now a college freshman,
Oh my
18.
goodness.
Yeah, crazy. And so I declined the Pomona job and came to the UCF job, which was only for 1 year. And after the year ended, I went to Jacksonville University to teach music business, and
Mm-hmm.
I taught there for 11 years. I became department chair for 3 of those 11. Got full professor with tenure. Went up the ladder. Published 7 books. I mean, all sorts of nonsense, and wrote a bunch of pieces for classical music. And I was one of 4 popular music scholars in the world to be accepted to International Musicology Society in 2006. So I got to speak in Zurich. That was pretty sick. Um, one of 4 in the world. Like, all these Beethoven scholars are running around. I felt
Mm-hmm.
dope. I was like, "Oh, these people are smart. Why did they pick me?"
Imposter
But
syndrome.
yeah. So and then as I was winding down my last few years at JU, the dean of the College of Arts and Humanities, Professor Jeff Moore, who'd been a mentor of mine for a long time since I was at UCF before, he invited me down for lunch. So I drove down from Jax, where I still live currently, and
Mm-hmm.
um, came down, had lunch with him, and we talked about stuff. And he said,
Oh,
I'd really like to find a way to bring you back to UCF. So um, it took a while, but then one day I was in the studio in Jacksonville mixing, and he called and he said, "Hey, I need your resume." I said, "How soon?" He says, "In about 3 minutes. I'm going to a meeting about you." So I ran up to my office. I sent him my CV, which, resumes in academia, CVs are super long. Like, mine's 32 pages right now. And yeah, hey, I've seen some crazy ones. I work with some people in music. They have like 50
oh
pages. I mean,
my gosh, my little
yeah,
one-page resume is being laughed at.
yeah. Well, in academia, you have to put everything, like everything.
Yeah, no, I get you.
So, uh, and then I said, "What's going on?" He says, "I'll call you back after the meeting." And he called me back and he said, "Okay, you've been selected by the Pegasus professors to come back to UCF. You just have to undergo a vote for tenure and full professor." So I didn't even have to interview. Very lucky. Very.
Dang.
And I came home to UCF, and I'll tell you what, uh, UCF is a magical place. It is the best place in the world. I love it, love it, love it. And anyone who doesn't think UCF is a great place, all I can say is there are some universities you should try out, and you will see
Mm-hmm.
otherwise, because this
Mm-hmm.
is like paradise to me. I love it,
Oh my
love
gosh.
it every day. There's not a single day I go, "Man, I really don't want to go to work." And
Wow, that's lucky.
the cool thing is that I get to be on the main campus for part of my life as, the associate director of School of Performing Arts. I'm one of 2 of them, and teach over in the main campus, go in this recording studio, which I love dearly.
Oh wow.
But then I get to go to Rosen, where it feels homey like a private school. And
Mm-hmm.
I get the best of both worlds. We get good football, Big 12 football, and I get to be at Rosen. The Rosen students are superb. Um, they ask tough questions. And I'm glad to be challenged, because it makes me go, is this relevant? Is this what's really happening in the industry right now? Because the industry,
Mm-hmm.
I'm 54 and I've been doing this industry junk since I was 17 years old. And I mean, I played longer, I had some stuff go on in Hawaii and all that, but I've seen a lot, and things are
Mm-hmm.
so different now from when I was just an artist, as we say. So I enjoy getting the good perspective and the good questions because, you know, and the
It challenges
students,
you.
yeah, and the students are my kids' age. You know, I've got one 24 and one who's 18. So
Oh wow, yeah, that's right in the range of college students. So,
yeah, so it's great. There's not a single day that I don't say I'm a lucky guy.
that's
See
great.
that. Yeah.
Well, I mean, all I gotta say is that you definitely earned that PhD with all that knowledge. That's for sure. Like, I don't. Obviously, you mentioned in class how the what?
90 before my defense, 92,000 words.
Yeah.
Oh my
See,
God.
even
4 years of just like nothing but Van Halen. I don't even listen to Van Halen anymore. I'm so sick of them.
I would be too if I had to do that.
Yeah.
It just, I think it's because like even like besides your actual like research you did for your PhD, like everything else you've done, it's like my dad's like 57 and he works in insurance, and I'm like he is definitely. I mean I'm not gonna say my dad is not like do a lot of work, but like I don't think he has a 32-page resume. So you definitely seem like a very accomplished individual for sure.
Well, I will say this. My best friend is also in insurance. He's the president of a company. Let me get this straight. It's a company that does litigation between insurance companies. Like he was the head of claims for Tower Hill in Gainesville for like many years. And then he's at this company now because he's the president and he lives in Orlando. And he has no musical background, zero zilch
Hmm.
whatsoever. He was a football player. I played football in high school too, but I wasn't accomplished. I got hurt really early because I was so
Oh
skinny and
no.
didn't have any meat on my bones. So we have the connection through football. Unfortunately, he likes the New York Jets, who suck, and I like the Miami Dolphins, who don't. So, but we all have our faults. But the thing about my buddy Tim is that he says, "I'm so jealous of you because every day your life is like you get to do what you want." Because,
Hmm.
and he goes, there are days I don't want to deal with insurance companies haggling over $100,000. And it's the truth. I am the luckiest person ever. And it's funny,
Hmm.
since I've been in academia, 26 years now, doesn't happen at UCF often, but it does. Everyone's like, yeah, I hate it here. It's like, beat it, dude. Go to a different university. But the ones who are here, we know what's up. We know what's going on, and we enjoy every day of it. So whenever I meet someone in the faculty, it's like, hey, go on up to Elizabeth City State and you go hang out with those guys for a while. Once you go to Jacksonville University, you can see where they're like the chair of the music department has a red pitchfork and a red tail. So, you know, I'm lucky. And I don't know if my students think they know that I'm lucky to be around them, but I hope y'all do because I love all of you guys.
I mean, you do drive. I mean, you said you live in Jacksonville, or you at least, so it's like no one who doesn't like what they're doing drives that far for their
Yeah,
job, you know?
yeah. I drive down
Do you,
Monday, go back Friday.
oh my God. Would you just, do you commute back and forth literally each time you have a class?
No, so my
Oh, thank
parents
goodness.
retired here. My parents are
Okay.
actually originally from Orlando. They went to Colonial High School. My dad's a career
Oh,
Marine, Silver Star, and 3 Purple Hearts, baby. So I mean, he
wow.
he got promoted to E8 at year 10, which is unheard of. He was an amazing Marine. He's an amazing dad too, but he's an amazing Marine. But when they retired, they wanted to come back to Florida, and I lucked out because it was right around the time I started UCF again.
Hmm.
So after not living with them for 30 years, I mean, remember, they're in Hawaii and I'm in like Denver or Virginia. And then they went to, um, oh, sorry, it's the executive associate dean. I better call him back later.
We'll be done soon. I know you have busy things to do.
Never calls me. So I'll have to call him back. Um, so, who I love, he's like the most wonderful guy.
Hmm.
Professor Brody is like amazing. But um, so I stay with my parents. I didn't live with them for 30 years, and now, and Gabby, you'll know this when you get older, because your dad's still relatively young.
Hmm.
They get old, and it doesn't seem like it now because he's young, but there's going to be a time when his health is going to not be so great, and you're going to want
Mm-hmm.
as much time with them as you can because they go. And one of the things that's unfortunate has been getting older is that people that your friends die. I've had 5 friends die in the last year.
Oh no.
5 friends. One of those guys from a band I played with in Hawaii that I grew up with, he killed himself, and
Oh my
yeah,
gosh.
horrible. Yeah, I had a friend die of cancer. Um, so anyways, not to be morbid, but the thing is that me spending time with my parents
It's
while I'm
important.
is worth it because I every week I have dinner with them at least once a week, every week. And at night when I get in from the studio or Disney or wherever I'm doing stuff, I just hang out with my dad. And in the morning before I go to school, I hang out with my mom, and I get to spend time with them because now I'm going to be moving to Orlando soon. Now that my youngest is in college, because we were waiting for her to
Oh,
finish high school, so I won't see them every day. But but yeah, I stay with them, and it's great. And then I go back to my wife, and plus during the week I'm not there, so she doesn't want to kill me as much.
good. True. Healthy marriage.
Yep.
For sure. So I do have a question. So I know that literally one day, I like rose, and I believe it was a class I had a year ago, so ago. We had a guest speaker come in, and he had his whole career about like how he was working in venues and all that stuff. And the last question someone asked him was, "Did you go to college? What was your degree?" And he said he didn't go to college at all. And so I feel like many people in this industry that you're in don't go to college, but you not only got to college, you have a PhD. So do you think that it is worth it for going to college, or like can you be like, is it worth it? What are the pros and cons of it in the industry?
Well, let me say this. In general, I believe that people should go to college to become more intelligent.
Mm-hmm.
Um, a lot of people have the idea of you go to college to get a degree to get you a job. I
Mm-hmm.
actually turn that around. I say if you go to college to become intelligent, then you'll get a job. Now the thing is, as I think I say the first day of every class of every semester, at least in the Rosen's class, you can't major in rockstar because otherwise we'd all be rock stars.
Mm-hmm.
Major in, oh, I walk across the platform at graduation. Where's my job at Warner Brothers Records? Okay.
True.
There are lots and lots of people for a few spots in the industry. But the good thing is about the industry is that there's a lot of different things to do. I grew up thinking I was just going to be a rock star and be a guitar player in a famous rock band. And, I had every indication that that was going to be my life until I became a professor. And even then, I was still playing in a band in Virginia. And, I had a friend from LA who was going to sign us to her label. She had worked at a label called Alamo Sounds, and she discovered the band Garbage, which had some hits in the '90s. And Stupid Girl and I'm Only Happy When It Rains. She signed Garbage, and she signed a band called Ozo Motley, which is like a Zydeco band, I guess. I don't know how to describe them. And she had her own label called Terracotta, and she was going to sign us. And um, the band ended up breaking up. So it you know, I was planning on being a rock star forever, but the thing is that you go to college to become more intelligent, and then it brings you more options in the industry. Yeah, my
Mm-hmm.
friend who runs sound for Tool, Nobby, yes, did not go to college. Yes, my friend who did this and that and this and that in the industry, my friends who are rock stars did not go to college.
Mm-hmm.
I am family friends with the drummer for the most famous band in history,
Mm-hmm.
right? He did not go to college. But the thing is that I feel like people should go to college no matter what to become more intelligent. And I will say that I think that my college experience was the best time of my life.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think people should go to college just in general. Now,
Mm-hmm.
sure, you can, but I think smarter people are better people.
I feel like there's only like such a small percentage of people who actually can like make it big in a certain way. It's like a small percentage of people who are lucky enough to do so good without education because I feel like the degree is what makes people stand out in some cases. So I
Hmm.
totally understand what you're saying with that. But you mentioned obviously that in class and also right now that you have friends with people who are very big in the industry. How do you find these people? Like, what's your networking skills? I know that's like a biggest question everyone has. Like, everyone has, like, because the whole thing is network, network, network. And it's really who you know. And I feel like you know a lot of people. And it's just like, how do you find people? Like,
Hey, you know, it's going to sound so stupid, but you have to put yourself in areas where people go.
true.
Okay, so in Denver, right? Even though I was in the real big band there, um, I knew some people in the local industry because I hung out at certain rock bars, venues. Okay.
Mm.
I met my girlfriend who was working at the big concert company because I met her. She was a judge for some contest. It was like a dating game, and I was the celebrity that was supposed to be it. And she
Oh
was a
my
judge.
gosh.
I know. And then it's funny, the girl who won the dating game, she did and when she won, she didn't want to go out with me. So it was a limo and tickets to a show and all this stuff. So I'm holding the the prize, like the voucher for all this stuff, and I see one of the judges who I thought was very pretty, and I went up to her, I said, "Would you go with me?" And she said, "Yes." So, you know, that's because I was in that particular environment. When I moved to LA, um, it was about meeting people just because of the places that you hang out with. So, and in LA, it's a totally different deal because entertainment industry is everywhere. So most people who are there are doing entertainment industry of some capacity, or they're with somebody who's in entertainment industry in some capacity. I mean, like I was at the bar, the Cat and Fiddle in LA once, and I see my wife with this girl. My wife's like 5'2", and this girl's about 5'2", 5'3", and I can't see her face. And they're sitting there playing a trivia game, one of those box things, right? And I was like, I don't know who the other girl is. So I walk up to her, it's Drew Barrymore, who, by the way, is a complete knockout in person. Oh my God, she's so beautiful in person. Like way better
Oh
than you
my
see,
gosh.
way better than you see on TV. Um, and then through my wife, I met all sorts of people because she was working at MTV and she had
Mm-hmm.
friends in the London scene. So the Ringo Starr things through my wife, because her Ringo's daughter is my eldest daughter's godmother. So,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and so I meet him just because of my network through my wife, who I met at a bar in LA because she was visiting, doing something for MTV. She was living in London, and I met her friend. Her friend was dating my singer at the time, and the friend is a girl that goes by Holly Wood. She's one of the original Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling. Her name's Jeannie, by the way. It's not Hollywood. So,
Mm.
and he was dating my singer Rick, and I said, "Hey, who's your friend?" So, "Oh, she lives in London." Blah 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 blah. And then we, did that. So, in other words, um, you have to put yourself in the areas where you're going to just simply naturally meet people. And I can go on and on and on about people that I've met in the weirdest circumstance. Okay, I'm going to give you one more because this is about the weirdest of all. I am Miami Dolphins fan, long suffering, and I used to go to this bar called the Barrel in Van Nuys, and this place is a dump, and I love dumpy bars. So I would go there to watch the Dolphin game. So one year, first year first game of the year, I walk into this dump and I see this little old lady with a hand knitted top with Miami Dolphins on it. I mean, it was like the cutest thing ever.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, "Can I sit with you?" And she's sitting drinking coffee, and I'm drinking something else other than coffee. And we're watching the Miami Dolphin game. And I sit there, and after a while, just small talk. "So you've been coming to the Barrel often?" She goes, "This is my first game. As a matter of fact, it's my first game where I am not at the Dolphin Stadium in Miami. I just moved here from from Miami to LA. And she had been to every home Dolphin game in history prior to that. She had season tickets since 1966. She'd been all the Super Bowls, all that. And I was like, wow, why did you move to Miami? She goes, well, I was a single mom. I only have one daughter, and I'm getting old. And the daughter was concerned about my health. So she wanted me to move to LA. She works here in LA. And I said, well, what does she do? She said, you ever heard of the band Garbage? I went, yeah. She goes, oh, she signed them. And into the game, this woman walks in and says, hey, Mom, how you doing? And she comes up to me and she goes, thank you so much for hanging with my mom. And I said, your mom's awesome, which she is.
Yeah.
Well, she passed away. And so me and the mom were friends. And I knew she had this daughter that worked at a record company. And then every once in a while, I would get like tickets to something, like to see Garbage with Smashing Pumpkins at Anaheim Pond. But then when the mom, her name was Gail, died, the sister, remember, she didn't have any brothers and sisters. She saw me as her brother. And we became very, very close. So now, if there's something in the industry on a contract that I go, I should ask somebody about this, then I call Pam, who's out of the industry now. She does a doggy daycare on Long Island. And she totally hates the industry now because it's not the same.
Oh my gosh.
So I call her. I say, hey, I got a contract question for you. And she was like, shoot. All because I met this woman's mom at a bar in LA. So the moral of the story is, if you're going to really be serious about being in the industry, you've got to move. You've got to move. LA, or Miami, or Nashville, or London, or something like that. But the idea that you're going to simply meet industry professionals in the music industry, not the theme park industry. Obviously, we're in the right place for that. But if you're going to be in the music industry, you've got to move. And it doesn't mean that bands can't get signed out of Orlando. Creed did, and Creed became Alter Bridge. Yellow Card, my buddies in Yellow Card got signed out of Jacksonville. Limp Bizkit, they got signed out of Jacksonville. You can get signed out of places, but meeting people in industry is so difficult. And Limp Bizkit, by the way, got signed because they knew somebody in Korn when they were on tour. Yellow Card got signed because of something or other. I forgot what the story is. I have to ask Pete. Marilyn Manson's drummer, Lucas, is here. He lives in Orlando, and I've done some mastering work with him. And he's really great. He's really, really awesome. But I met him through somebody else, But those type of things are not common in Orlando. And it's not because Orlando's junk. I love Orlando. I love, love, love Orlando. I'd rather live in Orlando than Hawaii. That's saying a lot. But if you want to be freshly out of school and in the industry, you've got to move because it's tough to make connections.
That is true. I think it's so great because I feel like everyone says it's all who you know, but it's like no one ever tells you how you meet people because I feel like the best way I can do it right now is just LinkedIn, but like I'm not gonna meet anybody. Yeah, I'm not gonna be able to. It's not the same as like it's all about where you are, like what you said. Which
one of the things when I moved to LA, I learned this little trick. I didn't have to use this in Denver because my band was popular. It was you meet someone at a bar and you shake their hand and you say, hey, my name's Gabby. I'm from Orlando, or wherever you're from. I'm from Orlando and I'm doing in the industry, or I'm working in publishing, or I'm trying to get in publishing. What's your name? That's it. And everyone will say the same thing. And I was so surprised first of all, no one was from LA. Everyone was from somewhere else. Weird thing. But there's, and it doesn't matter what area of the industry, because even if they're in film or they're in TV or whatever, because of the nature of the work, you tend to find connections. And you make these connections just by being friendly with people.
True.
There's a lot of, it sounds silly to say out loud, but there's a lot of merit in being nice to people.
I know, but that's totally valid.
And being friendly. And this will surprise you. I'm actually a pretty quiet guy. I'm actually pretty shy. So
Really?
I can't like just go up to people and say, "Hey," I'm like, "Ooh, I
That's
don't know."
hard.
But but you do it. And it takes a bit to get used to the routine. There's also something I used to teach my people at Jacksonville was how to shake a person's hands with your right and give them the card with your left.
True. True.
And it takes a little technique, little smoothness to it. Takes you can't just go, dun, 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 dun. But that's a good thing too. So that being said, any music industry conference, NAMM show, anything like that, if you can find a way to go, go. So
Yeah. Yeah, for real. Now I know you have to go soon. Do you have time for one more question or do you gotta go right
I
away?
do. I do. God, I didn't realize what.
Awesome.
Oh, yeah, so
No, yeah, it's been 45 minutes. We've been here for a while. So, do you see any changes happening in the music industry? I know you mentioned that you don't like the way it's going right now, but like, what have you seen? Like, what kind of changes have you seen? Pros and cons of them?
there's definitely pros and cons with the way the industry is now. Okay, so
Mm-hmm.
I mentioned this in class. Let me grab my drink. But I want to mention it again. The good thing about the music industry now is that people have a way of creating stuff that is commercially acceptable in its quality and
Mm-hmm.
releasing it without having to go through a label.
Mm-hmm.
It used to be that record companies held the key to you releasing music.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's good. What's bad is that because a lot of people can release music independently, it's a mixed bag on its quality. And it's not just songwriting, it's production and recording quality first. This costs $70,000. It's worth every penny of it.
Oh my
I was talking
gosh.
I did my master's on a $500,000 one. I did one on a huge one. It was like you got in the seat and you scoot across. I did an SSL on a J series. And my master's on an SSL J series at the studio I used to work at.
Mm-hmm.
They got it after I left. The one that I worked on when I was at the studio was actual one used for Appetite for Destruction by Guns N' Roses. And I had a love-hate relationship with that stupid board because it broke down a lot, but it sounded good. Well, preamps didn't, but the EQ sounded amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I worked on a Trident 80B for years and years and years and years. But there's when you don't know what an API console or an SSL or Trident or Neve, especially if you don't know what they sound like because you're not experienced with them, you try to do things that don't make a lot of logical sense because you think that's the way it should be done. You learn it from YouTube. You cannot learn how to use a microphone correctly unless you do it. And there's a difference between a $100 SM57 and a $2,500 Manley. And it's the nuances and all that stuff. So we have a mixed bag on recording quality. We have a mixed bag on songwriting prowess because a lot of producers get lazy and they copy and paste and loop. So as a guitar player, when I was in the studio with Workman, he used to say this thing, which would drive me crazy. I'd do a take and he goes, "It was great except for one section." I went, "Oh, which one?" He goes, "Beginning to the end."
People.
But what he was trying to say is you got to be able to play. You got to play like in front of people to breathe.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just be a production thing. I mean, Linkin Park is super famous, but I've
Mm-hmm.
seen pictures of their sessions and it looks like a grid. And that's why their music is so repetitive because there's no ebb and flow.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like it's stuff that's looped and chopped up and repeated and copied and pasted. I'm not picking on just them. There's a lot of hip hop, there's a lot of pop, there's a lot of EDM that has the same sort of issue, and there's a lot of rock that has that too.
Yeah.
So the good news with the technology is that we can make records of a reasonable quality without having to buy $70,000 API. But
Mm-hmm.
the bad news is you're getting stuff that has plugin emulation, which will never be good as this ever,
Mm-hmm.
and we're missing something in translation. So it's kind of a mixed bag on the quality. Now, when you have your Adeles and your Taylor Swifts and your Foo Fighters of the world, they can afford this stuff, and that's why their stuff sounds so amazing. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
Foo Fighters records sound amazing. He's using the Neve that was at Sound City, and it's a difference, but it's tough to get amazing sounding things out of home studio stuff. You can get something released, it'll sound good, and it might get you, get discovered or something of that nature, but it's not going to be like, oh, yeah, well, I'm listening to the next Adele record or next Beyonce record.
Mm-hmm.
And people say, oh, well, I can make, hip hop beats and all this stuff, and I can do just as good. No, dude, Dr. Dre is using an SSL. Dr. Dre's using an SSL, a full format 48 channel SSL. So this stuff you're doing in your computer is not going to translate like Dr. Dre. You're not going to, period. You don't have the tools to do it. So the pros is, yes, we have more stuff and we can get stuff released. The bad news is it's a mixed bag on quality. I'm not just saying I'm old, get off my lawn because I say, oh, it's bad now. No, it's not the case, because there's plenty of good stuff out there, but you have a lot more to go through. There's no serious major label vetting to get stuff released, so sometimes you get stuff good, sometimes you don't. And I'm going to pick on metal, my own damn genre. They're the worst of it. I hear these bands, I'm like, this guy can't hit a note with a truck. My God.
Oh no.
I mean, it's like, ugh, gross. But it happens, So
Yeah.
it's not just being, a genre purist.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is that there's also something that since I was younger, since the 1980s, image is a huge part of the music industry today. In the 70s, less so, because we didn't have an MTV, we didn't have music videos. I mean, we had Elvis and the Beatles on TV, okay, but you wouldn't look at people like Electric Light Orchestra and go, "Oh boy, they look so cool." I mean,
Yeah.
they don't. I love me some ELO though, and I love me some Jeff Lynne, man. He's a great guy. I've met him a number of times. He's like kick-ass. But it's just you can't just be a great musician in popular music.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in the classical realm, you can, but funny enough, even classical is beginning to have that whole image thing. You pick up a classical FM magazine, and you'll see some young violinist dressed in a black gown, but it's not something that an older lady would wear. It looks something that's bordering on sexy, and this is a classical violinist. So it's not just popular music that's going down this road either.
Yeah. No, definitely. I think it's because I mentioned that, it's my favorite artist is Taylor Swift. I'm the most basic girl in the world, but like the reason why I listen to her is mostly because like I will be the first one to admit that her voice, there are so many people out there who have better voices than her, but the reason why I listen to her is because she's a good songwriter, and because the quality of music is really good too. I haven't listened to someone new in a while, because it's just what the quality of it is too as well.
Yeah. Well,
But
and the thing is that ticket prices now are so high.
oh yeah, no, yeah.
Because that's the main revenue stream. Because artists aren't getting paid jack for streaming, as I showed you guys in class.
Yeah.
I mean, it's embarrassing. I mean, I'm not famous. I'm not expecting like $10,000 royalty checks. But when I do get royalty checks, and I still get them, I go, I guess I can send my wife to Target. Maybe. Buy the dog food with my royalty check.
Oh my gosh.
But it's tricky now. And because we stream, and I do stream. I mean, I streamed today. I was listening to Arch Enemy driving down I-95. Deceiver's record. You should listen to it. The singer, who's a woman singer, sings like the Cookie Monster. It's amazing. So
Cookie Monster.
Go check out Arch Enemy, Deceiver.
I will write that down for you.
Oh my God. Her name's Alyssa. She's from Canada, and she's so beautiful. and she's powerful and strong. And I'm a father of daughters, so I'm all about strong women and power.
Mhm.
And then you hear this voice, you're like, she's going to kill me. And it's
Oh
great.
my,
She's awesome. She's awesome.
oh my
But
God.
you know, there's some issues.
No, yeah.
People aren't. We're not generating physical copies of sales anymore because people
Hmm.
want the convenience. You can't play a record on the treadmill. Got it.
You
Get
can't.
it. Can't play record in a car. Got it. But how many people are spinning records or CDs at home? Look,
Hmm.
go buy Target. Go buy Best Buy. Best Buy doesn't even carry CDs anymore. Target,
Really?
yeah, Target's got something like 4 rows,
Yeah.
3 rows. You know, this is where we're at. We're streaming everything, and
Hmm.
listen to some streaming services. It's not full format, and it's MP3 nonsense, which is bad because it's crappy dynamic range. That ain't cool.
Yeah.
So, I can go on and on and on.
No, I know you. That's great though. I love that. I know my car doesn't even. I think most cars I've seen recently don't even have the CD slip anymore.
Yeah,
Like
mhm.
it's so crazy that I I don't even have access to a CD player at this moment in my life, which I do want one. I do want to get one just for funsies, but like I'm a big I stream too, but I also until your class didn't realize how little artists get out of streaming,
Little.
which I guess like for who I listen to particularly like I it doesn't really matter because they're rich, so it's like whatever. But like there, it's so hard to make it in an industry that doesn't let you in, you know?
Well, the thing is that we get into, I tell people all the time, um, I didn't choose music, music chose me.
It sounds like it.
And I've been doing music for so long. I generally don't know how to do anything else. As an administrator, I'm in charge of money. So
Good.
thankfully, I've learned how to do a spreadsheet,
Oh, nice.
but that comes from my training figuring out record royalties. It's like I took record royalties out of y'all's curriculum a number of years ago, and I so want to put it back in. But like one day, I was doing like the Renner-Shagan formula on the board for a class about 3 years ago, and they said I didn't major in entertainment management to do math. I said, well, you better learn how to count your money then.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it was so crazy. I mean, that's basic algebra. It's like ninth grade algebra. It's great. Solve for a variable. Come on.
Oh
Not.
my
It's not like
God.
I'm asking you to hit like a quadratic equation, that thing that we learned in algebra that no one remembers.
Oh, I
Wow.
remember it.
You do?
I think so. Wait, do I remember? It's like, oh my gosh,
E plus and minus square root of 4 times 2 8.
negative b plus or minus square root of b squared
Uh,
minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay, and this I remember the song that I learned in class. Yes,
oh,
that's
that's wrong. Maybe that's what it is.
my teacher back in like eighth grade. She basically had one of those little weird talking Timmy things that kind of squeak out things that you ask them to squeak out. You know, the little weird animal things. I don't even know. It's just a website thing, and she had it playing for the first like 5 minutes of class until we all memorized the quadratic formula.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Pretty cool.
Yeah, so I had that memorized now. It's great.
Maybe I should do that for something in music business. We all sing a hymn at the beginning of class.
Oh, I'm sure everyone would love that.
Yeah, I actually used to make people sing in class.
Like what?
Whatever.
Just whatever you wanted them to sing.
Yeah.
I mean, you made people sing Happy Birthday one time, so
Yeah. Well, I used to make people sing "I'm a Little Teapot," and they had to do the handle and the spout. Do the
no.
handle spots to them. It's like that's some pretty sorry handles, man. Better get some handles going. Come on, we're gonna sing it again.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, and I teach music appreciation every once in a while. I'm going to teach it next semester.
Mm.
The very first day, I had people conduct and sing "Happy Birthday" to some poor girl whose birthday it was, and there was 370 people in the class, so it was really cool.
That's not as
So
bad. That's
we were
doable.
all conducting "Happy Birthday." It's like congratulations. I mean, it was like full on simple triple meter. I mean, down, left, up, down, or down, right, up, down, right, up, and I said, y'all think I'm crazy, but y'all learned something today, and you're going to be singing "Happy Birthday" the rest of the day.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome.
That's correct.
So,
All right. Well, I feel like you have to go now, probably.
I'm actually getting like texts from like members of the faculty, like,
I've been hearing it.
Like, do you have a minute? You got a minute?
Oh my goodness. Well,
And
I will let you go.
So
But thank you so much for coming on this podcast. We really appreciate your insight. You had a lot of good insight. And obviously, if I had another hour and a half, I'd love to ask you a million more questions. But your
I'd
time
probably
is, it's okay. Yeah, yeah, it's okay. You actually covered a lot of questions I had, so it's all good. But thank you so much again for coming. And I will actually see you tomorrow in class. So,
more in class.
yeah. All right. Thank